The following outline is provided as an overview of and topical guide to the U.S. state of Idaho. Idaho, U.S. state in the Rocky Mountain area of the United States. The state's largest city and capital is Boise. Residents are called Idahoans. Idaho was admitted to the Union on July 3, 1890, as the 43rd state. General reference. Names. Common name Idaho. Pronunciation Idaho. Official name State of Idaho. Abbreviations and name codes. Postal symbol ID ISO 3166-2 code USID Internet second level domain US nicknames Gem State Gem of the Mountains Little Ida Spud State Potatonia Adjectival Idaho Demonym Idahoan Geography of Idaho. Idaho is a U.S. state, a federal state of the United States of America. Location: Northern Hemisphere, Western Hemisphere, Americas, North America, Anglo-America, Northern America, United States of America, contiguous United States, Canada, U.S. border, Western United States, Mountain West United States, Northwestern United States, Pacific Northwest. Population of Idaho 1,567,582. Area of Idaho. Atlas of Idaho. Places in Idaho. Historic places in Idaho. Ghost towns in Idaho. National Historic Landmarks in Idaho. National Register of Historic Places. Listings in Idaho. Bridges on the National Register of Historic Places in Idaho. National Natural Landmarks in Idaho. National Parks in Idaho. State Parks in Idaho. Environment of Idaho. Climate of Idaho. Geology of Idaho. Protected areas in Idaho. State forests of Idaho. Superfund sites in Idaho. Wildlife of Idaho. Fauna of Idaho. Birds of Idaho. Amphibians and reptiles of Idaho. Natural geographic features of Idaho. Rivers of Idaho. Regions of Idaho. Central Idaho. Eastern Idaho. Northern Idaho. Southern Idaho. Southwestern Idaho. Administrative divisions of Idaho. The 44 counties of the state of Idaho. Municipalities in Idaho. Cities in Idaho. State capital of Idaho. Boise. Largest city in Idaho. Boise City. Nicknames in Idaho. Demography of Idaho. Government and politics of Idaho. Main article. Government of Idaho and Politics of Idaho. Form of government. U.S. state government. United States congressional delegations from Idaho. Idaho state capital. Political party strength in Idaho. Branches of the Government of Idaho. Executive branch of the Government of Idaho. Governor of Idaho. Lieutenant Governor of Idaho. Secretary of State of Idaho. State Departments. Idaho Department of Commerce. Idaho State Department of Education. Idaho Department of Fish and Game. Idaho Department of Juvenile Corrections. Idaho Military Department. Idaho Department of Transportation. Legislative branch of the Government of Idaho. Idaho Legislature. Upper House. Idaho Senate. Lower House. Idaho House of Representatives. Judicial branch of the Government of Idaho. Supreme Court of Idaho. Law and order in Idaho. Capital punishment in Idaho. Individuals executed in Idaho. Constitution of Idaho. Crime in Idaho. Gun laws in Idaho. Law enforcement in Idaho. Law enforcement agencies in Idaho. Idaho State Police. Military in Idaho. Idaho Air National Guard. Idaho Army National Guard. History of Idaho. History of Idaho. History of Idaho by period. Indigenous peoples. Lewis and Clark Expedition 1804–1806. Oregon Treaty, June 15, 1846. Unorganized Territory of the United States, 1846–1848. Mexican-American War, April 25, 1846 – February 2, 1848. Territory of Oregon, 1848–1859. State of Deseret, 1849–1850. Territory of Washington -1889. Bannock War 1878. State of Idaho becomes 43rd state admitted to the United States of America on July 3, 1890. History of Idaho by region. History of Boise, Idaho. History of Idaho by subject. Territorial evolution of Idaho. Culture of Idaho. Museums in Idaho. Religion in Idaho. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Idaho. Episcopal Diocese of Idaho. Scouting in Idaho. State symbols of Idaho. Flag of the State of Idaho. Great Seal of the State of Idaho. The arts in Idaho. Music of Idaho. Sports in Idaho. Economy and infrastructure of Idaho. Communications in Idaho. Newspapers in Idaho. Radio stations in Idaho. Television stations in Idaho. Healthcare in Idaho. Hospitals in Idaho. Transportation in Idaho. Airports in Idaho. Cemeteries. List of cemeteries in Idaho. List of cemeteries in Idaho. Education in Idaho. Schools in Idaho. School districts in Idaho. High schools in Idaho. Colleges and universities in Idaho. University of Idaho. Idaho State University.